In 1973, in the Peruvian Amazon forest, Constance Webb was looking for a special species of spider, the venom known to have special properties. Ezekiel Sims, her guard for the trip, believes that those spiders give humans superhuman qualities. Such people are known as las arañas, but Constance doesn't believe in myths. Being in her last month of pregnancy still doesn't stop her from finding the spider. Constance happily comes back, telling everyone she finally captured that spider alive. However, her happiness is short-lived, as Ezekiel shoots everyone around and points the gun at Constance, telling her to give up the spider and she can stay alive. The commotion of him trying to snatch the jar ends up getting Constance shot. Ezekiel takes the jar and runs away. As Constance is in pain, someone climbs down the tree. A human looking just like that spider, and takes her to aid her. The guy Santiago uses the spider to help Constance and then helps save her baby. He tells Constance that her daughter isn't going to have an easy journey, but when she'll come looking for answers, he'll be there to help her. Constance extends her hand towards her daughter, but before the poor woman can even touch her flesh, she dies. Fast forward to 2003, Cassie, the daughter, is working devotedly as a paramedic. Cassie and Ben reach an accident site where a car is tilted upside down and hanging by the edge of the bridge. Cassie and Ben manage to get the person out, but before Cassie can move out, the car tilts and falls off the bridge. Inside the water, Cassie opens her eyes with a jolt, but the next moment the car is gone and she finds herself surrounded by an intricate glowing web inside the water. Cassie starts hearing voices and conversations she's never had. The thoughts and experiences become uncontrollable for her. But soon Ben's familiar voice calls her out of her unconsciousness. Ben checks her vitals, which seem to improve without an issue. However, after the entire scenario, Cassie finds Ben checking her vitals again. She feels like Ben is doing it again, not realizing time turned back on her. Ezekiel takes a lady to his penthouse where he still has the spider properly stored. As the two sleep, Ezekiel has a nightmare of 3 young girls in spider suits attacking him in the house after his spider disappears and then killing him. He wakes up panting and tells the concerned woman that they aren't nightmares, but glimpses of his fate. He threatens the woman to get her ID and access to the National Security Agency, just so he can identify and track the girls with those faces, and then kills her. Cassie visits Mary's baby shower on Ben's insistence, but the awkwardness is short-lived due to a fire down the docks. Cassie is resuscitating one of the victims when her colleague O'Neill comes to the scene. Cassie suddenly sees O'Neill instead of the victim in front of her, and blood on her hands. She can feel the events turning back in time till O'Neill appears at the scene again. She doesn't want O'Neill to drive today, but cannot provide a solid argument to stop him. O'Neill barely reaches down the road when a truck crashes into his ambulance. Cassie rushes there and pulls him out. She looks at her bloodied hands pumping on dead O'Neill's chest, making her feel helpless, even though she saw it all coming. Ezekiel hires Amaria to use all the hidden cameras and the NSA accesses to look for the 3 girls from his dream so he can kill them before they awaken their powers. Amaria tracks that the 3 young girls, Anya Corazon, Julia Cornwall, and Martha Franklin, are oddly all in a train station and reports it to Ezekiel. Cassie is on a train. The adjacent tracks screech, followed by her looking around to see Anya on the train. She sees Ezekiel killing Anya, but the event turns back again. Julia enters the train, the tracks screech again, and this time Cassie sees her getting killed. The same event repeats for Martha. Frustrated by this, Cassie is about to leave the train when she sees Ezekiel coming through other chambers. She tells the 3 to leave the train in a hurry. As they get out, the girls first assume Cassie is trying to abduct them, but then Cassie points to the ceiling on the other side, making them look at a man crawling on the ceiling towards them in a black bodysuit. They rush around the train station to escape Ezekiel, but the cops assume Cassie is the kidnapper and they try to arrest her. Ezekiel attacking the cops gives the girls time to escape. Cassie steals a cab and drives away with them. Hiding them in a forest with no cameras, Cassie tells them she can see the future but can't control how or when. Mention of Ezekiel acting like a spider makes Cassie recall something from Constance's diary, telling them not to do something stupid like moving out of the woods. Cassie leaves to check some things. Staying low, Cassie reaches her apartment and reads her mother's diary. Just like she thought, Las Arañas are people who are incredibly fast, strong, and can climb like spiders. They can also see the future. She then finds her mother's photo in the diary with none other than Ezekiel. The girls are getting hungry, so they decide to go to a diner nearby, which is a dumb move. Reaching the diner, the girls not only eat a lot, but also interact with some boys around. This starts unnecessary attention. Ezekiel gets to know of their location while Cassie rushes back to the place, but the girls are gone. She follows in her footsteps to look for them. Cassie enters the diner and tells them to leave with her when Ezekiel walks in. He starts killing the girls one by one, but Cassie, trying to fight him, makes him stab her. With a gasp, Cassie is back in the woods, giving her another chance to approach the situation. This time, Cassie takes the car and drives towards the diner. Before she can reach it, Ezekiel enters the diner. However, Cassie drives the car straight into the diner and crashes into him. Ezekiel tries to hold her hand to poison her, but she manages to break free. Giving them an earful and feeling pain in her hand, Cassie eventually takes them to a motel. Ezekiel doesn't care about Cassie, but the moment Amaria mentions her being the daughter of Constance, he stops. In the motel, Cassie gets to know Julia ran away from her father's second family. Maddie's parents aren't around, and Anya's dad is deported and she lives alone, wanting to avoid foster care. So all three cannot go to the cops and are dependent on Cassie. Late at night, Cassie visits the diner where she sees a potential conversation happening with Ezekiel, in which she gets to know the girls will have powers in the future. Why he wants to kill them and how her mother underestimated him too. Luckily, Cassie wakes up in the motel room so she gets to know the truth, but doesn't risk anything either. The next morning, Cassie explains to the girls how Ezekiel's hands release painful venom that can spread in the body and stop the heart. She then teaches them CPR so they can get their heart beating again. Cassie then tells them about the people in Peru with similar spider powers and how she needs to get there to find some answers, so she leaves the girls with Ben for a week. As Cassie visits the forest, Santiago appears there, fulfilling his promise to Constance that he will give Cassie answers. She gets to know that Ezekiel is cursed and is trying to overrun his destiny since his motives were selfish and he stole the spider. Taking her to the same cave, Santiago tells her that her threat existed even before she was born. He then pushes her into the water, but it feels like only her spirit fell inside. Cassie, who initially thought her mother hated her, sees how her mother constantly apologized to her after being shot, and then goes deeper into the memory to get to know that she was looking for the spider because Cassie had an untreatable neuromuscular disorder. Cassie finally gets closure that her mother was doing this for her all this while. Santiago tells Cassie that even though she lacks physical powers, her mind has infinite potential, and she can even be in multiple places at the same time if she masters that mind control, which means she can change the future. Back home, the girls are successfully laying low, but eventually, Mary's water breaks, making them have no other option but to leave the house. Always the troublemaker, Maddie doesn't keep her head low in the car and is captured by Amaria in one of the cameras. Cassie reaches home and looks through the window, hearing the events of the past and seeing the car get blasted in the future. The ambulance that Ben previously called reaches, so Cassie steals it and rushes to where Ben's car got trapped due to Amaria hacking into the traffic control. Ezekiel lands on Ben's car, but Cassie dramatically brings the ambulance through a building's posters, throwing Ezekiel once again. She then takes the girls and rushes away smoothly, moving through the traffic. Knowing Ezekiel is following them through the roofs of cars, she makes Anya charge the defibrillator and shoot it on the car roof the moment he lands on the ambulance. As Ezekiel falls off, they travel away, but the ambulance breaks down soon. Cassie gets visuals about the future, so she decides to use the ambulance intercom to call a helicopter on the dockside for an emergency. Cassie tells the girls to hide lit-up fireworks in the crates on the dockside, so when Ezekiel follows them, he gets hit or blocked by the fireworks. The four then rush to the rooftop, but the fireworks cause the building to blast from different places, making it hard for them to reach the helicopter. Cassie's improvement of vision, however, helps them dodge the impacts of the blast. As they near the helicopter, Ezekiel jumps up on the roof and diverts a firework away from him into the helicopter. Cassie is cornered by Ezekiel, making the girls try and defend her. However, they get hung at dangerous spots by Ezekiel's attacks. Ezekiel mocks Cassie that she can't protect all of them at once, but Cassie proves him wrong by using the web where she can be in multiple places at once. Cassie saves the three of them by the time Ezekiel punches her, breaking her web. She purposefully backs towards the sign, using what she saw in the future. Ezekiel is confident she can't do anything, but she lures him to a point where a letter of the sign falls, making him fall off the building and die. However, the rest of the sign falls off too, throwing Cassie into the water yet again. As she drowns, a firework pierces through her eyes. Julia manages to bring her out of water, and then the girls resuscitate her back to life. In the hospital, the girls decide they are not leaving Cassie. Cassie sits there content even with bandages on her eyes because she managed to save the girls. Later, Cassie sits in her apartment in a wheelchair and with glasses, having lost her sight when the girls enter the apartment. Cassie still has her visions and can see the girls fighting against evil with their future powers. Cassie can also see herself standing behind the girls in every scenario, ready for whatever the future holds for them.